Have you ever spent hours making something that wasn't even that impressive and somehow ended up loving it anyway? Maybe it was a homemade desk, a model airplane, or a piece of furniture that leaned just enough to make visitors nervous. Logically, you knew it wasn't perfect, but when you looked at it, you didn't see the flaws first. You saw the time, the effort, and every problem you solved along the way. That reaction isn't random. It's one of the most powerful psychological biases you experience, and it quietly shapes everything from your hobbies to your relationships, your career, and even the products you buy. Researchers uncovered this in a surprisingly simple experiment. One group of participants was shown a finished origami figure.
Another group received the same paper and a set of instructions, forcing them to fold it themselves. When everyone was asked how much the finished creation was worth, the builders placed a dramatically higher value on their own version, even though it was often far less skillfully made. Nothing about the object had changed. Only one thing was different. They had created it. Psychologists named this tendency the IKEA effect, the strange habit our minds have of assigning greater value to things we help build. At first glance, that sounds irrational, but your brain isn't calculating value the way an accountant would. It's keeping track of something else. Investment. Every frustrating minute, every failed attempt, every ounce of concentration. Your mind treats those experiences like emotional deposits into an invisible bank account. Once you've invested enough, your brain becomes surprisingly reluctant to admit that the outcome wasn't worth it. Instead, it quietly adjusts your perception. The object starts looking better. The project seems more meaningful. Its imperfections somehow become part of its charm. Think about creating a video, writing a book, or building a side business. To everyone else, those things are just another piece of content, another company, another project. But to the creator, they're impossible to evaluate objectively. Because every late night, every setback, every difficult decision has become part of the final product. You're no longer judging what exists. You're judging everything it took to bring it into existence. This tendency runs far deeper than furniture or crafts. Decades before the IKEA effect was formally identified, psychologists studying human behavior discovered something equally revealing. People who endured difficult initiations to join a group consistently valued that group more than those who joined effortlessly. The groups themselves weren't better. The memberships weren't more rewarding. The only difference was how much people had sacrificed to get there. The harder the journey, the more meaningful the destination appeared. Our brains instinctively connect effort with value. Not because it's always true.
Because, for most of human history, it had to be. Imagine life thousands of years ago. Nothing arrived in a delivery box. Shelter wasn't purchased. Clothing wasn't manufactured overseas. Food didn't appear in grocery stores. Every essential object demanded work. If you spent days crafting a tool, building a shelter, or preparing food, your survival depended on protecting those investments. Evolution favored minds that became attached to what they had struggled to create. That attachment encouraged care. Care increased survival. Over generations, the pattern became deeply wired into human psychology. The modern world changed almost everything.
Our brains didn't. Today, nearly everything arrives finished. Meals are delivered, technology comes fully assembled, furniture often requires little more than opening a package. Yet the ancient reward system still waits for one thing: participation. The moment you tighten the final screw on a bookshelf or assemble a table with nothing more than an Allen wrench, your brain celebrates as though you've accomplished something much greater. Objectively, the manufacturer did almost all the work. Subjectively, it feels like your creation. And that feeling has real consequences. Because the same mechanism that makes us appreciate our own work also makes us blind to its weaknesses. In the original experiments, participants valued their amateur creations almost as highly as professionally made versions. Not because they couldn't see the difference, because effort distorted their judgment. This explains why entrepreneurs struggle to abandon failing businesses, why students become fiercely defensive of ideas they've spent months researching, why artists have difficulty editing their own work, and why people sometimes remain committed to relationships or projects long after everyone around them can see they're no longer working. They're not simply protecting the outcome. They're protecting the version of themselves that poured time, emotion, and identity into creating it. Suddenly, letting go feels like admitting all that effort meant nothing. That's an incredibly difficult thing for the human mind to accept. Even companies understand this better than most people realize. Flat pack furniture isn't only cheaper to transport, it creates psychological ownership. The assembly process quietly transforms customers into co-creators. By the time the final screw is tightened, the product isn't just another bookshelf. It's your bookshelf. Every small mistake, every adjustment, every moment of frustration becomes part of its story. And because part of that story now belongs to you, the shelf carries a value no factory could have built into it.
The next time you find yourself unusually proud of something you've made, pause for a moment. Ask yourself a simple question. Do you love the thing itself, or do you love everything you became while bringing it into existence? Because sometimes the greatest value isn't hidden inside the object at all. It's hidden inside the effort your brain refuses to forget.